B2.8.1, which is in the final stages of testing before being ready to be announced and, of course, released. Hello, Elad. Could we have Elad? All right.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Very well. Yeah, so thanks a lot. So the upcoming releases, we had a slight postponement just due to some last-minute testing constraints, but basically, so there's a lot of changes in there. They're non-breaking, so basically there's no rush to roll it out, but there's enough goodies in there that would probably make some people's lives easier. So we would encourage everybody, obviously, to upgrade as fast as possible. So among the changes, there's quite a bit of PRs in there. So again, I think over 40, if I remember correctly. But basically, there's some of the usual hardening, so all sorts of issues that we found with consistency under certain edge cases, and then there is some improvements to how much blockchain RPC traffic we're incurring. So we added all sorts of optimizations to that. We have also some changes to the API, which are the allowing to clients to actually stamp the actual content, and so this is supposed to be improving things for browser clients and all sorts of JavaScript implementations that have different requirements and basically want to pull some of this logic into their own domain. So now this is enabled. We also basically removed all sorts of arcane and unnecessary technical debt. So we removed the dev mode, which hasn't been really useful for a while now. So that's been removed in favor of some other tooling that we have, like BFactory and so on. And we have removed all sorts of legacy B versions supports, which also kind of cut off all sorts of migration paths. But basically, this is mainly the B 2.6 version backwards compatibility, which is mostly relevant anyway because we've broken the handshake protocol version. So these nodes are not really able to participate in the network anyway. But basically what it means is that older nodes can't use the new version as a migration path. So they have to migrate through the previous version. But I hope really that nobody's really running this version for various reasons.
There's also probably the 2.6 that's pretty outdated.
Yeah, it's a few years old already by now. So and so there's a couple of changes to the API. So there's all sorts of improvements there. I'm not sure if it's really relevant to go into every endpoint, what was changed and so on, but it's basically like baselining everything so they have similar contracts and so on. So it kind of improves on that. And there is also that's notable, but it's opt-in right now. And this has been also mentioned in the previous call, which is this SIMD chunk hashing, which basically uses all sorts of hardware acceleration, which is available on certain CPUs. Right now, this is only on the Linux AMD 64 CPUs, but it basically uses all sorts of CPU parallelization that allowed us to do way less memory and CPU operations per chunk hashing operation. So basically every time you hash a chunk to get its content addressed hash, so there's a lot of actually hashing operations that are being done in order to provide this like hash of a chunk, because the chunk hash is not a simple hash of the content, but rather it is a sort of a Merkle tree hash, which allows for all sorts of inclusion proofs, etc., without having to leak the whole data. So you can only leak a small segment of the data to prove that you actually have the data, and so on. So there is a lot of hashing operations actually involved in producing a single chunk root hash, so or a chunk hash, chunk address. So this has been historically done with all sorts of parallelization, which also, because we're using Go, so that has all sorts of scheduler and memory management implications. So you're doing a lot of memory allocations, you're doing a lot of scheduler operations, although they're very short and fast, but you're still doing a lot of them. And this grows a lot when you're talking about doing a lot of chunk operations in parallel. So it kind of floods the runtime with a lot of operations. So now we managed to improve on this by using SIMD, which is like it's not a new thing. It's a sort of instruction set that exists on CPUs for many, many years already. And it allows you to do parallel operations on the CPU directly. And so we've basically thrown out the door like all the parallelization and have no parallelization, but still do chunk hashing about twice to 4 times faster or something. Depends on the CPU, depends on the supported instruction sets and so on. But this is only available for AMD 64. If you try to use this new flag on Macs or on Windows machines, so you basically fall back to the previous method of doing chunk hashing, which is basically not going to change anything for you. So this is not bad news, because you're not getting inferior performance, but for whoever is running vNodes on Linux hardware, Linux and AMD 64 hardware, so that means that they can use this. And so we encourage you to experiment with this, and tell us what you think.
Is there a plan to also extend this to the non-Linux users in the future releases?
Not right now, no. It's a completely different instruction set, and like basically we also kind of reutilized existing implementations that do this, because we don't want to go and re-implement all the crypto stuff. So it was basically reutilizing the existing parallelized implementations to do this, so that we don't have to audit like a rewritten basically crypto implementation for a hashing algorithm, which I would rather not get us through. So I haven't so far looked or found also very clearly for those sort of implementations for Macs or for Windows. It could probably be done, but Windows Windows has its own set of like considerations, which kind of makes reusing the existing implementation to be literally impossible. There's quite a lot of changes that need to be done there in order to support Windows. So it's not really can be done out of the box with the existing implementation that we're using. So I guess that on demand we could consider that, but for now this is not in the cards. And I don't know how many Mac users we have that actually would require this, but again, if this is needed, then we can talk about this. But for now, this is not really in the cards.
All right. So do we have a date of the release set yet?
This should be on the second week of July, so around 6th or 7th of July. I think 7th of July.
So as usually, we'll give out like a 1 week's notice, because this is not a major or like breaking changes, including release. So 1 week's notice will be out there. and also a blog post covering in details all of what you just said, but also in more technical details, so everybody can get up to speed and know exactly what this package includes, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Elad, can you also maybe share some more on what's coming up next for B-Team?
Yeah, so there's a few things. However, it's still there's quite a lot of things that are being discussed right now. There's all sorts of changes to syncing algorithms or protocols to be exact, and there's all sorts of changes being discussed for staking and for storage incentives. We're also going to do a little bit of probably exploratory kind of research about like how to better modularize the code base and kind of see how we can clean up the interfaces to external API consumers and so on. Yeah, quite a lot of things. So I can't really remember everything right now, honestly. There's all sorts of adjustments that are also related to streaming potentially, like more kind of like video streaming and stuff. So yeah, there's quite a bit of things in the pipeline. It's not really clear right now what will come in first in the next couple of weeks, but next few weeks. But yeah, we're gonna jump on everything once we get the release out the door. So, yeah,
so it's going to be a busy summer by the sound of it. Okay. Well, thanks for this report, Elad, and looking forward to hosting you again on our next community call next month. So now let's move on to basically a mashup of two sections, which is the InFocus and community talk. We just are going to do something slightly different this month. And also, instead of doing like a clean conference recap, we'll do more of a field report. I have with me Migle, Kos, and also a special guest joining us, Alaska. So what this is all about. Last week, it's only 4 days ago, but to me, it seems like a month, to be honest. It was very intense. We were there at the Berlin Blockchain Week, which is basically a whole bunch of various events spread out through a week or even slightly more than a week. Swarm was present across several of them and in several contexts, from Web3 Privacy Now's Neo Cypherpunk Summit to Ethereum Day Berlin to Web3 Summit to DeSci Day Berlin to Brew event to AI Agents Day. And we presented on stage from talks to workshops to a panel and, of course, the Plural Monolith, our experimental live coding audio-visual infrastructure installation, which we'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, let's go through and let's unpack this slowly. Migle, should we start with Web3 Privacy Now? Because this was basically the first of the events for us. That was on Sunday, I think 14th of June. And you gave a great cultural audit there, plus hosted a panel right afterwards, which was somewhat similar in spirit to the one we did in ETH Prague, and decentralization being the main topic. So basically, how was it for you this time? Was it like a completely different context or outcomes compared to Prague, or how did it land for you?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, well, to begin with, ETH Prague and Web3 Privacy Now also has very big relationship and connection to privacy and ethical approach to the technology. So I think just saying that the audience is also very specific. You kind of have the odd ones out, the cypherpunks, the new generation, the old generation. people kind of hacking and, pulling out their laptops mid-conference day and showing you the cool new tech that they're working on and getting really nerdy from the most positive way possible. And I think that spirit really carried through the Prague also into the Sunday, and that's how we kicked off Berlin Blockchain Week. Indeed, I delivered my keynote on decentralization theater, where through culture, theater, and art, I analyzed what we can do better in our industry, which is, in my opinion, the big conclusion is collaborate more, collaborate more, collaborate more, and look at each other way less as competitors and more as friends from different communities, especially the ones that have very similar ethical values. And I think what was really cool, we pitched this idea to Web3 Privacy Now, and they were keen that sometimes how like you join a panel and you're a little bit missing the context because the people speaking on a panel, maybe they know each other, or maybe they're talking about specific technology. So we really wanted to have a discussion around this topic, like how can we bring more collaboration between different companies, but also kind of having like indeed a very honest conversation of like, hey, what sucks right now in our industry, and we're all pretending that it works.
Indeed. And right? I think you managed so well to kind of break their, safeguards, or like make them like drop their guards and really go into a quite very honest discussion around it, which was, okay, obviously I wasn't present at all possible talks and panels, but I think this one was one of the most honest ones, if not like the most honest one. That's how it sounded to me.
Indeed, I feel like after so many years in the industry and so many different conferences, we've kind of became too sugar-coaty. Like I really miss those early days, smaller Bitcoin, Ethereum meetups where we truly were like odd ones out, and we became, in my opinion, too sugar-coaty. But that's the thing. Inside of the Swarm Foundation, we really still are those geeky nerds that can spend weeks upon researching one very technical topic. And I think I really wanted to bring that culture into the outer space. And I think like indeed, by starting with a keynote and giving this background of decentralization theater and how we can adjust things through culture, and then inviting on stage super awesome people, by the way. We had Mario Havel from Ethereum Foundation. We had Kyle from Brave Browser. We had Meinhard from Freedom Browser. And this was very intentional, bringing two different browsers as well on stage and saying like, hey, is there like a room for collaboration? Like your guys' values are very similar. And I will just, I can't get into details, but I will just say that absolutely they continued the conversation after the panel. And of course, our own Victor Tron, founder of Swarm Foundation, was there. So the conversation indeed was very interesting. And the fact that we had a background beforehand was very unique as well. So other talks and panels were also interesting, like focusing indeed on more ethics and values. So that's why kicking off Berlin Blockchain Week with this, I think, was very valuable for like our community, but also showcasing our technology. Because like me and Mina right now are really focusing at Swarm Foundation. How can we showcase our incredibly complicated and well thought through technology, but in more approachable and tangible ways? And one of those is indeed kicking and trying different spheres. And we've kind of landed on this fun experiment that incorporated decentralized storage, coding music, coding visuals, building physical monoliths, so doing a lot of interdisciplinary things. And at the end of the day, having a live coding performance where people were able to interact with music coded directly coming from Swarm. So I don't know if I don't want to claim it that we're the first ever in the world that did it, but through our research, it did not seem like anyone else has done it. And to me, I felt it like really without, any BS, I felt it inside, like looking around the room. This is kind of revolutionary stuff we're doing here, but yeah, we created live music from blockchain, and I don't think anyone has done that before.
I think we can actually claim to be the first ones who deployed this type of software into the decentralized environment. So what was done for this, we called it collaborative experiment. because collaboration, since you said it's like collaboration here, this also like was intentionally set up to be a collaborative project. It's not just Swarm Foundation. Obviously we led the way with bringing the concepts, bringing the infra into the game, but there was a big involvement and input from Darkfire as well, and Wind Privacy on the level of visuals mostly, but also some live coding. But yeah, so the idea here was exactly that, like put infra in the whole art installation or experiment as as you would put an instrument in it. So how can it play a vital role? And it did play a vital role. But generally, just to set some background to it, this was some kind of on a conceptual level, a probe into Web3 and basically Web3's contradiction, how to coordinate collectively and still keep individual sovereignty or independence, and how to basically surrender individual authorship and still have or keep the human imperative or voluntary cooperation. So this was very interestingly also how it played out in practice, because that's exactly what was happening. So people did get in, they did collaborate, they did participate live on the spot, but also just to mention, maybe we can show the people, right? We have a web page set up for this because it's an ongoing thing. So the performance was premiered at Web3 Privacy Summit, but we then did a second session at Web3 Summit, and it is still up. You can still contribute to the sound bank, which is stored on Swarm and accessible at all times. Yeah, thanks, Migle, for showing this. So that's the dedicated web page, also obviously run on Swarm. And here you can see that you can basically through this landing get into the app, which is this forked strudel, such a funny name. And then if you click the orange looking submit button, this is where you can actually go to submit your own samples to the bank. And then whenever the live coding session happens, whoever live codes can basically bring your sounds, your samples into the mix. So this is exactly how it runs. Now I'm not sure what this is going to play. Just the last set. You do need to be slightly knowledgeable how to operate this strudel coding, but it's not too complicated. Honestly, I did give it a try myself, and it was my first experience, and I still managed to not produce an awful thing. So
Mina, do we want to show the people, like we did a little video of the performance at
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, let me tune that in for everyone.
Collective force.
Here's also the QR code that you can scan. Obviously, you didn't have the time to now, but basically livecoding.eth.limo is the page that takes you to everything else. And in this footage, obviously we saw not only me and Migle and Murat, who was such a tremendous support and help in this and did a great performance. in live coding, and Alexandra as well on the second session. But we also saw Coz there, and we also saw Alaska there. So I would just give give the mic to Alaska now, because how you entered the whole thing, and what you did and how much you contributed was just absolutely fantastic and awesome. So much praise to you, Alaska, and let that be basically an intro into your view on how that went for you, and what did you think this was, and what did you get out of it, or like did it even inspire you to do more? And
Hi. So for everyone who doesn't know, AK Alaska, I've kind of been interesting one under the radar around the like decentralized space, and specifically coming from the angle of art and music. But I kind of have been hearing and feeling more of this kind of cohesion arriving around the kind of privacy nerds and security and all these things, and of course like sovereign tech, sanctuary tech as we call it. So I kind of arrived to Berlin Blockchain Week at the last moment and just showed up at the venue, at which point I saw all of our friends here kind of scurriedly setting up this monolith, which I had no idea what was going on, of course, and then discovered that they actually were going to be live coding on Swarm, which is already awesome, and then kind of collaboratively letting everyone through the decentralized network kind of co-create music as a kind of art project in this beautiful venue, Funkhaus, and I think a lot of us, if you're around in this scene, we go to conferences and we see a large number of talks, people kind of talking about technology that's being developed, some hand waving towards the future, and kind of my suspicion generally is that you need bizarre and interesting inroads to start to see kind of value in these kind of technologies being integrated. And sometimes it looks funny, strange, curious, creative. And so I really resonated with that, and quickly jumped on the project to help just be extra hands. Before I knew it, I was also learning how to live code with the rest of the team, and we were all kind of turning into live coders throughout the week. But yeah, from that experience, I kind of continued to feel this, at least my discovery of this, but this kind of cohesion around, the general inroads of a lot of these really critical technologies like Swarm and other things that have been worked on for a long time, and where these can kind of manifest on a more cultural layer, right? You can imagine that something so simple as live coding feels, maybe fun, quirky, irrelevant, but the potency of then decentralizing the ability to co-create music globally, just presented as like an art project, but the core depth of that is like quite fascinating, right? So this is just scratching the surface of things that interest me generally, but it's always exciting to feel even in the current world, and the wild space where Ethereum and crypto is, these projects are bringing all sorts of kind of bizarre, interesting outcomes, and these are kind of the outcomes that come from the fertile grounds of these novel technologies, right? So I guess I'll just start by saying that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it to me, okay, honestly, it was amazing how we came from barely knowing each other on day one to you being being a vital part in the whole thing, and also how we kind of collectively discovered that there's we seem to all, I mean, when I say we, I think that people in this call, but not obviously not just us, because this really resonated with many more people that we ran across during the whole week. So this kind of meeting or kind of binding culture and technology in a very practical way, which is rarely seen in the space, I mean, to be honest. And then I also learned from you that you have many more great ideas as to how this marriage or like a way into adoption could look like. So can you also share a bit more on that?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, a little bit more info on that. I kind of comically have known about the Swarm folks for a while, but have been just randomly connected finally through some European conferences. But I've been having Swarm protocol as like a line item as a draft for a protocol I made a while ago. Kind of my angle in this whole space has always been to create technologies and provide a path for specifically the creative class to be able to have some agency in how they distribute or can share value, whatever it is they're doing. For me, I usually stick to music specifically, but I think have generally spent some time around the arts for quite some time. The cultural layer of these creative weirdos is, I think, also the spawning ground of a lot of the core places where Ethereum and things came from anyways. But yeah, I'll just give like a fun demo. It's like kind of something I've been thinking about for a while, and so I just integrated this music application with the Swarm protocol. And I think if you share my screen, I'll just show an example. I mean, it's still rudimentary, but just something that inspires me. Here is the the live that is currently playing through Swarm 2. So I have this kind of media player that I've been building with a bunch of artists, musicians have been putting their music on the system. And so I have just integrated all of the audio and storage with Swarm. Pretty straightforward. And one of the things that kind of keeps me interested in decentralized technology is how we can like remove platforms. And obviously this is going through a website. This is kind of a beta. You can request access to Subcult. It's coming in a few months. But right now I can show you an example of swarming a piece of music completely off of the Swarm protocol. And so it's just going to load this track right now. And I built another layer on top of this, which actually what it does is it automatically donates in this case, it's 10 cents per play, which is like a pretty extreme donation just for the demonstration. But it also directly donates to this artist. It holds their resources in escrow. So you can kind of see, this is, kind of building on top of these pieces, something more in the practical, tangible way. Anyone can upload music here. And through the magic, actually, of MetaBrainz, which is, free open source software infrastructure, I'm able to, just by way of listening, automatically donate, 10 cents, testnet for now, but, directly to this artist. And I actually even have 1 cent going to the platform. So you can imagine these kind of local communities can be running Swarm node, have files, and then you can listen to their music wherever. You can donate to the music, or if you wanted to make it a toll road, you can make it a payment. I don't think that philosophically is in alignment with me, but this is just what we have already. You can kind of do this now, right? There are right now all these solutions. And again, this is like completely decentralized, right? You can have this app on Swarm playing music through Swarm, and then donations on the blockchain. So you've completely decentralized the entire music infrastructure with kind of just these simple tools, right? Obviously, security protocol, it takes a lot more work, but this is just like an exhibit of one of the things that got me inspired to continue to collaborate with the Swarm folks. And on top of enabling this sort of tech, I think there's like a cultural alignment here that's really important to think through. You really want to make sure your technology is made by the folks that are understanding the core principles, the ethics of it all, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that'll be all for my demonstration.
Well, thank you. It was a lovely one. So super cool to see it. I mean, I did take a sneak peek before, to be honest. So not a complete surprise to me, but amazing to see, like really amazing to see. And also to see, you connecting something that kind of on some level, on so many levels actually feels so, why isn't this here now already? And there have been many, kind of attempts into how to kind of bring the salvation to the long tail of music creators economy through Web3, and kind of basically reshape or reestablish or like build a new certain model. So with cutting out the unnecessary factors. And now this looks like such a simple in a way, but definitely covering all the necessary angles, which is what I find particularly exciting.
Yeah, well, this is kind of like, with Swarm and all of the other tools, the interesting thing is, once the complexity just works, I mean, no one really needs to know about that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, I'm streaming a file into my web app. Okay. Like, I don't, and so it really is that easy. And, I was kind of shocked. Basically, I mean, I made that full integration just yesterday. And, I'm not like a terrible engineer, but, I'm not a cracked engineer either. So it's like, okay, well, now we have decentralized file storage and now I'm paying for music. Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, but since you mentioned this kind of, do you feel, because I'm getting this kind of feeling that we're moving from explaining the tech more into like just making it practical, or like not putting up front so much anymore, and rather focus on just making shipping things and having it run so smoothly that you don't really need to explain it much anymore? Or is that just my feeling? I don't know. Like, Migle, of course, what was your take during this Berlin blockchain week? Because I'm sensing like there is a bit of a shift over the last couple of years, at least in terms of moving from explaining and basically then kind of concluding that the UX, blaming that side. Into more like, no, I mean, this is possible. You don't need to even know how it works. It works, and then just building up on the feature side and like what else can it offer? Silence. Of course, what's your take on it? Can we hear you? Or
yeah, I thought Migle unmuted, so I was like,
oh,
okay, maybe.
Okay.
You ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. We can hear you.
Anyway, no, I mean, I think it was great. I think it was like definitely we had, it's an Ethereum week, and it's particularly and the Ethereum blockchain, we definitely had more of this. We're used to this more high level, either technical or philosophical takes. I think like this experience was elegant. And that's something that you don't really see more often, so just having this kind of like not in your face look at like the infra, how this is happening, or salesy kind of thing. It was just there in the middle. A lot of people probably saw it and had no idea it was related to Swarm, or what, had no idea that the intrinsicies of how the code was running and the whole experience was set up. So yeah, that's just like an elegant type of like activation for like community and different kinds of people that just jump into it. Of course, the arts, I feel like at least Berlin is Berlin, and we know how Berlin is. So we had a lot of like different RC spaces just across like the whole week, which was quite interesting. I think like the monolith just fit like right at home in that sense. But yeah, it's an interesting time. Of course, you follow Ethereum. There's definitely a bunch of news over there on Twitter. But yeah, so and regardless of that, like it was great just to have this kind of convening or like practical use cases of how the technology can function. I can definitely go in depth into some of these things. I think something else that made me particularly happy was, of course, we had the philosophy, the infra, the arts. A lot of the arts, but just as well seeing, like, of course, in Web3 Privacy Now, but also in other spaces, the presence of like people that actually, are on the field and actually need these technologies, like activists, NGOs, different kinds of groups that, ultimately they're the ones facing censorship and anyway, like, and require like privacy and different kinds of things like this that are often like many times we forget who are we building these things for. It's like, it's not like, it's like the average human being needs decentralized anything, decentralized front ends, so decentralized AI or different kinds of things, self-sovereign. But when we understand that some of these user groups are in the room sharing their experiences, sharing how they've been like censor or just like shut down in one way or the other, or like the voices have been diminished, then it's quite interesting and quite refreshing just to see. So we saw a little bit of this all across the board in many of the sessions. Of course, like the Web3 Summit, Web3 Privacy Now, and whatnot, at Futura Camp, which was quite interesting just as well. And at the Brew sessions, just thinking hardcore privacy. Okay, who actually needs this? So it was great just to see from elegant examples to tangible, grounded ones just as well. Yeah, and actually like the high level philosophy Ethereum Foundation things, we really didn't hear that much about that. So it was quite refreshing.
Quite refreshing indeed. I mean, I wasn't there for the brew day. That was Saturday. But you guys all were. And obviously, I do know that we had a series of workshops from live streaming over Swarm, which again is something that we can do now in practice, and it's being done and it's being demonstrated, and it's always kind of met with wow response from the people attending. But there was also another like edition of this live coding, which again just showed, okay, here we're not talking about some strict privacy levels or basically battling censorship or anything like that, but it's a collaborative and very social experiment led through art on this decentralized infra that's kind of tapping into the whole collective spirit around Web3 and doing it through basically us having fun. At least that's how the video footage from Saturday looked like to me. I mean, I don't know, Migle or Alaska, how did you see it?
Go ahead, Migle.
I was going to say, Mina, do you want to reform the question specifically, or you more want to take like on the difference between the events?
Yeah, that's what, because I wasn't there for the last one, but you know, it's just I like to see that it kind of took off in a way. So that last one was this whole thing. What we brought it to Berlin literally in a state of a concept, not knowing how it's going to actually turn out. And I left Berlin feeling like, okay, oh my God, this like exceeded my expectations in terms of how it took off and how we managed to really form somewhat of a community around it and seeing it kind of flourish or in also different contexts.
Yeah, like to give an example, I mean, we also had workshops. So we had workshops, for example, of decentralized media streaming, which is something also important to mention, that, you know, we really are trying different avenues and seeing where the technology can really benefit. And decentralized media was pretty full workshop as well. And then last moment, we kind of decided to change. Like we came to Brew Berlin thinking, okay, we're going to do our AI agents workshop as well, which is, you know, available on our YouTube channel if anyone wants to see that. But, you know, we felt like the people kind of kept on asking us about the live coding and if we're going to do more and how is it done. And it dawned on me that actually this is way more interesting way to showcase our technology. And I said, hey, Alaska, do you think we can do a workshop on this? So it really went from Alaska joining, you know, on a whim and just kind of learning everything himself to giving a workshop the next week to the people, which was very interesting because, you know, we had people in the audience that never heard Swarm before and they walked out thinking how cool, you know, like now I can go and use their technology to be decentralized, but also, you know, use it for my music creation. And people were giving some great ideas as well and like things that you can build on top of it. So it felt really nice that we were introduced through this angle and we didn't go into nits and brittles of what Swarm is. We showed it, right? So indeed, you're right. It has shifted from kind of just telling about it to showing about it. And then after the workshop, we got a awesome opportunity. So thank you to Jantine and Brew Berlin. They asked us to make a kind of a closing ceremony. And again, like we kind of had immense freedom to just do something more practical and showcase. And I said, let's just do an actual performance. So I went on, I explained it in like 2-3 minutes of what we've done with the monolith, what was the concept, that what you're seeing is decentralized music being live coded, and then Alaska took off, and we kind of had a massive blast of music and techno party. Like, some people joined and were incredibly enthusiastic. Like, I asked the audience to stand up. It was end of the Berlin Blockchain Week. Everyone already danced off their hearts. But there were definitely some more active souls left, and they joined us in. I think it was nice to shift the energy in the room as well. And then almost right after us, Vitalik went on stage to talk as well. He had like a fireside chat. So it was nice to see like more and more people entering the room and being like, oh, it's just like, a random techno being played. But then they would see on the screen that, oh, wait, this is coded. Oh, wait, this is coded from the centralized network. Oh, this is cool. And like even more people after the performance came to me and Alaska and were like, oh, where, I can do this. So it felt nice that, people were coming to us for the art and culture, but in this way, we were also able to showcase our technology in the practice. To me, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah,
definitely, I agree. And also, obviously, we are going to continue with this experiment, and we're going to continue to also improve on it, or like basically add on it, or see where this can actually be developed to. I think I can also say that DarkFi also enjoyed this whole thing a lot, and Wind Privacy as well. So I do hope that this continues to be our collaboration, but also maybe introduce more collaborators into this whole live coding experiment. To which, by the way, we did see a short film in the beginning, in the beginning of this section here today in this call. But a longer film is also being prepared. Migle, you can just say a few words around that.
Absolutely. We really wanted to highlight and explain to people the reasoning behind what we've built. And we're making this video also in hopes to, outreach more mainstream audiences to kind of break out of the Web3 bubble of the users, and hopefully reach out to our target audience, which is indeed any people that are using media, are creating media, and wants to stream it in more ethical way and directly benefiting from it. They could use Alaska's platform as well. They could create music from decentralized servers because it will never be shut down. Right? Or it is at the hands of the community to be shut down. So it's a very different concept. And so this video indeed will be kind of explaining the reason why we decided to do this project and how technically we build it. We interviewed Aaron, who is one of our lead developers on this project as well. We interviewed, everyone basically who participated in some shape or form on this, and hopefully it will give you more background on it, and you can kind of share it with your creative communities and say that this is just one of the examples and opportunities for you to be more decentralized of your power and take the power for yourself, decide of what self-sovereignty means to you as well.
It is also I really like the fact that with this page on Swarm and the sound bank being hosted on Swarm, it's basically there, it's hosted, it's accessible at any time from any computer, and this does not require you to run a node, by the way. So you can really access this. Just go through our page, and also you can see there not only the sound bank that's growing, but also some of the tracks that have been uploaded. Those who have been uploaded, you can actually go in them and do your own remix or edit, and re-upload your own remix or edit. So it's kind of free and open to anybody to join at any time on it. Or obviously you can wait for the next live in real life appearance and join us then. I see that, we debated quite some time around this, but I would like to, before the call concludes, go just briefly into another topic, which is, Migle, you had a really cool talk at the DeSci Day. Can we also tap a bit into that? So that's different context, different topic, but what did you speak about there, and how did the conversation around decentralization shift when the focus became science and data and health research?
Yeah, I personally really love this community of DeSci, and I thought I'm just gonna, show just quickly my slides for anyone curious as well. I've been indirectly part of DeSci community as an attendee and kind of seeing that this is entirely different bubble of decentralized science and the way they see and use blockchain as well. Of course, one of the main topics is the vehicle of funding, but they are also using blockchain technology for so many different layers when it comes to scientists, research in academia, in also like drug releases, sharing the knowledge. So there's a lot of many different bubbles going on even within the DeSci community. And I just felt like what we have to offer in terms of decentralized storage is something peculiar and interesting. And we did have a interesting paper that for our really true community members, they will know and recognize it. It's personal health data spaces and decentralized content addressable storage networks. And this was a paper released by an academic from Caltech University in 2025. And it kind of spoke about the personal health data spaces. And I just kind of wanted to come, by the way, this like paper doesn't solve all the issues of the personal health data and how we share it, but it brings up a lot of very interesting struggles and challenges that the health data and the storage could potentially have. And I kind of wanted to bring on thesis of how Swarm could offer certain solutions, and that we are, at least right now from our investigation from like internal group, we are GDPR compliant. It's a very overstretched statement, so don't take that as a legal advice, but more to say that we are on a premises of trying to build solutions that could potentially one day replace the traditional health storage models. And I really wanted to open this as a opportunity for the DeSci community to see what we have and basically try to explore it. And tell us, like, can we build something better for you? Is there something in our tech stack that already works that could be tested with you? So it truly was kind of a thesis to showcase what we have, then ponder with why it is relevant as well. And I'm very happy to say that we did have quite a few folks from DeSci that came up to me after the talk. They also already sent me some follow-up emails that wants to meet and learn more about it. So in conclusion, like, we're not trying to say that we have that solution of decentralized health data storage. What we're trying to say is that we're open and interested if something like this could benefit the research and the scientists right now, and if they want to collaborate and continue this research. And so it was kind of an open invitation, and I still ponder and have this idea about potentially organizing an online event for this, kind of like online open circle for people that would be interested in this topic. So specifically decentralized storage for scientific purposes, for healthcare purposes, and all of that jazz. And if there are anyone kind of interested, please also just let us know in Twitter, Discord, Telegram, anywhere. Because I'm just waiting for a demand, and when there is a demand and people curious and interested, I already have some folks at Swarm Foundation that are more than happy to put together some educational things, like from very 101, what we have, to more technical things, to just see if anyone could benefit from this community. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing also the slides, Migle. But I see that we're in the final 5-minute stretch of the call, so maybe just one quick round from each one of you. What was the most useful thing that Berlin taught us, or maybe the most surprising thing that Berlin taught us? Kos?
Might need 10 seconds.
Okay. Then let's maybe go to Alaska if you have anything on the top of your head.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess for me, seeing it's easy to be on crypto Twitter and to look at all of the sentiment in the market and the insanity. It's like the classic story of a bear market. But if you were there in Berlin, then what you saw is all of the folks that are committed, inspired, and continuing to work hard and feeling, for me, generally optimistic. I think the tech is better than it's ever been. The culture feels strong. The community was strong. I just landed and assimilated immediately, which I'm sure is the same story for many other people. and I think that's the sentiment is, Berlin Blockchain Week for me was just generative and exciting, and much better than you get from the classic conference. And I guess this
Indeed.
is like a classic condition. The real ones are around, and we're still kicking ass. So
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I do second that. That the feeling, the vibes, so to say, the vibes. I never really like this word, but like, yeah, the vibes were showing or pointing into a surprising amount of optimism, indeed, around the technology. So I guess that basically we obviously bear market and everything, but all that aside, I think what's kind of still the motivational main force is the fact that the technology is so much more mature than it was when people were, when it was a bull market, but not that much else apart from some of the obvious stuff to show for. What would you say, Migle? Anything like seriously surprised you, or what's your main like takeaway?
I think pretty much resonating with what you folks said. Everything is more lean. There's less noise, more builders. And I think also more effort and resources being put into breaking out of the bubbles, especially when it comes not only to the DeFi, but beyond that. Web3 Summit is a great example, also bringing a lot of different artists to perform. Web3 Privacy Now, bringing people outside of the Web3 bubble and, from politicians to activists. So absolutely, there's a lot of breaking out of the bubble moments that we're noticing and seeing.
Indeed. Kos?
Yeah, I can add to that. I mean, like I got into the space in like 2010, so you can imagine like the technology was clunky, was quite messy. The use cases were, only financial, transactional. Right now, it feels like definitely the space is mature. It's I don't know. Back even a couple of years ago, maybe even last year, it's like just taking this technology and putting it in the hands of like somebody that was on the field, on the ground, that actually needed this technology. Was like, oh my god, am I doing it right with them? It's like because it's like UX, UI. Clunkiness, like many of the things are not fully ready. Some of the things like go out, like people are excited. There's some capital, like there's this solution. XYZ, and then suddenly money runs out, and there's people in, I don't know, like some global majority country, like stranded on transactions and different kinds of things. So I feel right now like the market, the technology, the narrative had evolved and are definitely more mature. And it's difficult to go through these growing pains and actually be an adult. So yeah, 10 years of Ethereum, looking great.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here on the call today. And 1 minute to plink. I shall say just one last thing, and that is our next community call is on 30th of July, which is, as always, the last Thursday of the month. Same hour, same place. We'll keep you posted meanwhile, and have a lovely summer.